My hands were shaking on the night my life quietly changed, even though the palace around me looked calm and beautiful. What I am about to share began as a small secret, but it grew into a storm that nearly took my life. Please stay with me, because this is not just my story. It is a story of faith, fear, and hope. As you read, you may feel pain, courage, and light mixing together. I ask you to read slowly and with an open heart, because what happened to me shows the cost of choosing what is right when everything around you says it is wrong. Before we continue, please comment where you are watching or reading from. Let us know your country or city so we can connect as one family and continue to pray for one another. My name is Prince Amir Zaid. This story began in the year 2014, when I was 19 years old. I lived inside a palace in Brunei, surrounded by tall walls, quiet guards, and rules that followed me everywhere. From the outside, my life looked perfect. Inside, it felt like a cage made of gold. Every day followed the same pattern. I woke up early, washed, dressed, and learned lessons chosen for me. I was taught how to speak, how to walk, how to smile, and even how to think. I was constantly watched. Guards followed my steps, teachers reported my behavior, servants feared saying the wrong thing around me. Privacy did not exist. Religion was part of our daily life, but it was strict and enforced with fear. I was told what was allowed and what was forbidden. Questions were dangerous. Doubt was treated like a disease. Anyone who stepped outside the rules disappeared quietly, and no one ever spoke about them again. One evening, something unusual happened. A man who worked in the palace library noticed my hunger for books. He had seen me pause often, staring at shelves I was never allowed to touch. One night, when the hallways were quiet and the guards had changed shifts, he showed me a small book wrapped in cloth. His hands trembled as he revealed it to me. I understood immediately that this object carried danger. I learned from his actions and expressions that the book was a Bible. I had heard terrible things about it all my life. I was taught that reading it would bring punishment, shame, and death. Yet something stronger than fear pulled me toward it. My heart beat fast as I accepted it. That moment felt like stepping into fire and light at the same time. I hid the Bible under my mattress, between wooden boards and folded fabric. Every night, when the palace slept, I opened it slowly. I read stories about love, forgiveness, sacrifice, and a man named Jesus who chose suffering to save others. I did not understand everything, but I felt peace for the first time in my life. As days passed, I began to change. I became quieter. I thought deeply. I stopped enjoying the luxuries around me. I started noticing the pain of servants, the fear in their eyes, and the silence they lived with. The words I read showed me compassion, mercy, and truth. They made me question the violence hidden behind our laws. Fear soon followed. I knew the punishment for leaving the faith was execution. I had seen what happened to others accused of disobedience. Some were beaten publicly to teach a lesson. Others were locked away in dark rooms for weeks, denied sleep, food, and dignity. Their cries were meant to break their spirit before their bodies were broken. Each time footsteps passed my door, my chest tightened. Each time guards stared too long, my mind raced. I lived with constant tension, knowing that discovery would mean torture, disgrace, and death. Still, I kept reading. The forbidden book became my secret refuge. It was the only place I felt free. I did not know then that my quiet decision would soon drag me into the harshest persecution of my life. I did not know that my faith would be tested with pain beyond imagination. But the first seed had already been planted, and nothing would ever be the same again. The night my secret was uncovered, the palace no longer felt like a home. It felt like a trap closing slowly around me, and every breath I took sounded too loud. I knew something terrible was about to happen, but I did not know how deep the pain would go. It began on a quiet morning that looked normal on the outside. The sun touched the palace walls, and birds moved freely in the air. I remember thinking how strange it was that the world could look so peaceful while my heart felt heavy. That day, guards came into my room earlier than usual. Their faces were hard and cold. One of them searched my bed carefully. Another watched me without blinking. My body felt weak when the hidden Bible was uncovered. No one shouted, no one rushed. That silence was worse than noise. I understood from their actions that my life had just changed forever. I was taken through long hallways I had walked many times before, but this time my feet felt like stones. I was led into a dark room with no windows. The air smelled old and heavy. The door closed behind me and the sound echoed in my chest. Men came in and out of the room. Some wore uniforms. Others wore calm faces that hid cruelty. They showed me documents and signs, making it clear that reading the Bible was a crime. I learned from their gestures and tone that my choice was seen as betrayal, not only of religion but of family and nation. The questioning lasted for hours. I was not allowed to sit comfortably. When my body became tired, I was forced to stand. When my eyes closed, I was shaken awake. They wanted me to feel fear. They wanted me to break. They revealed to me that the punishment for leaving the faith was death. Hearing this did not feel real at first. My ears heard it, but my heart refused to accept it. I was still young. I had dreams. I had hope. Yet in that room, my life already felt erased. The persecution did not stop with words. I was taken to a holding cell beneath the palace. It was small, dark, and cold. The floor was rough stone. There was no bed, only chains fixed to the wall. I was given little food and dirty water. Time moved slowly there. I could not tell day from night. Sometimes guards came in just to remind me of my fate. Their looks were enough to fill me with fear. I learned from their behavior that suffering was meant to make me regret my decision. I was isolated so I would feel forgotten. I was kept in silence so my thoughts would turn against me. My body began to weaken. My back ached from the cold floor. My stomach burned from hunger. Sleep came in short moments and left me quickly. Worst of all was the loneliness. No family, no friends, no voice to comfort me. I cried quietly many times. I thought about the servants I had seen punished before. I remembered how some were beaten in public, how others were locked away until their eyes lost hope. Now I understood their pain. I was walking the same path. Yet, even in that darkness, something inside me refused to die. I remembered the stories I had read. I remembered love, mercy, and sacrifice. I did not know what the next day would bring, but I knew that my decision had a cost, and I was already paying it with fear, pain, and tears. This was only the beginning of my suffering. The worst was still ahead. I thought the darkness of the prison was the worst thing I would ever face, but the night before my execution showed me how deep fear can go before hope appears. What happened in that place changed me forever, and it still lives inside my heart. I lost track of how many days I had spent in the cell. My body was weak and my mind felt tired from fear. My wrists were sore from the chains. My clothes smelled of sweat and damp stone. Every small sound made me jump, because I believed each footstep could be the one that ended my life. That night felt different. The guards came earlier than usual. Their faces were serious. One of them showed me papers and signs that made me understand the decision had been made. I learned from their actions that my execution would happen the next morning. There was no appeal, no mercy, no delay. When they left, the cell became silent again. Fear wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. My heart beat fast. My hands shook. I thought about my family, the palace, and the life I would never live. Tears ran down my face without sound. I felt small, broken, and alone. The persecution had reached its highest point. I had been stripped of my name, my freedom, and my future. I was treated like a danger, not a human. The suffering was not only physical, it was deep inside my mind. They wanted me to feel worthless. They wanted me to believe my life meant nothing. In that moment, I remembered the Bible stories I had read in secret. I remembered the man who suffered without fighting back. I remembered love stronger than death. With no strength left, I closed my eyes and reached out with my heart. Something changed. The cell did not open, but the fear inside me began to fade. I felt a deep calm settle over me, stronger than the pain in my body. I sensed a presence that was gentle, not threatening. I understood without words that Jesus had come near to me. He revealed peace to my heart. I did not hear sounds with my ears, but understanding filled my mind. I learned that my life was not forgotten. I learned that suffering was not the end. I learned that even if my body was destroyed, my soul was safe. The chains were still on my wrists, but inside, I felt free. For the first time since my arrest, I stopped shaking. My breathing slowed. Hope, which I thought had died, returned quietly. I knew that whatever happened in the morning, I was not alone. I lay on the cold floor and rested. That night, sleep came gently. Fear no longer controlled me. Death no longer felt like victory over me. I had faced the worst persecution, and yet love had met me there. When morning light began to creep into the prison hallway, I was still alive, calm, steady, and ready for whatever came next. What happened after that was something no one expected. I walked out of the place meant to kill me, but the scars of persecution walked with me. What happened next proved that faith does not always remove pain, but it gives purpose to survival. Please stay with me, because the end of this story carries hope, born from suffering. Morning came with heavy footsteps. Guards opened my cell and pulled me up. My legs were weak and my body shook, but my heart stayed calm. I was led through long corridors where cold walls had heard many cries before mine. I learned from their silence that something had changed, but no one explained anything to me. I was taken into a large room filled with officials. Their faces were serious. Some avoided looking at me. Papers were passed around. I understood from their actions that my execution had been stopped, not because they agreed with my faith, but because my case had drawn attention beyond the palace walls. Still, the persecution did not end. I was placed under strict watch. My movements were controlled. My food was limited. My contact with others was cut off. I was warned through actions and gestures that any return to my faith would bring worse punishment. Fear followed me everywhere like a shadow. My family was pressured. I learned through quiet signs that they were threatened with shame and loss if they defended me. This hurt more than the chains. Persecution does not only attack the body, it attacks love, family, and identity. I was later moved out of the palace and hidden away. I lived in silence. I lived with pain in my bones and memories in my mind. At night, I remembered the cold floor, the hunger, and the waiting for death. Some nights I woke up shaking, feeling the cell around me again. Yet my faith remained. I chose to live quietly, helping others when I could, sharing kindness without drawing attention. I understood that my survival had meaning. I had seen how faith costs people everything. I had lived the truth that following Jesus can bring loss, pain, and suffering, but also peace that fear cannot destroy. Even today, many believers face prisons, beatings, rejection, and death. Some are children, some are parents, some disappear without names or graves. Their only crime is choosing faith. I ask Christians around the world to remember them. Please pray for those who are persecuted for their faith. Pray for strength for the weak, comfort for the broken, courage for those hiding, and hope for those facing death. Pray that love will reach places where cruelty rules. And for anyone reading this who feels far from God or weighed down by sin, I gently encourage you to turn your heart toward Jesus. You can do this simply by admitting your need for forgiveness, believing that Jesus gave his life to save you, and choosing to follow him with sincerity. Ask him to clean your heart, guide your steps, and give you new life. My story did not end with death. It began with purpose. May my suffering remind you that faith is precious, freedom is costly, and love is worth everything. Faith does not always make life easy, but it gives strength when life becomes hard. Even in pain, God remains close to those who trust him. Persecution may silence voices, but it can never silence truth. The courage of believers under pressure becomes a light for others in darkness. Never forget those who suffer quietly for their faith. Your prayers, love, and support matter more than you may ever know. May your heart stay firm, your faith stay alive, and your hope stay strong, knowing that God sees every tear and rewards every sacrifice.